Here we are.
I was thinking about the ship of Theseus on my walk this morning.
Wow.
Yeah. Can I propose the question that is giving me a headache?
Please.
So, obviously we've talked about this a million times, but ship of Theseus thought experiment being there's a boat, and how many different items do you have to replace on the boat for it not to be the same boat anymore, right? So I was thinking, all right, that is a example of physical things changing for it to be a different thing. But could a person change enough mental traits for it not to be the same person anymore? Because what we value with people is not the physical things. I think we would all agree that if I replaced both arms, both legs, you know, my abdomen, blah, 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 if my brain was the same, it would be the same person. I think we would all say. But what if, like, I was a bad person, then I was a good person. I was a murderer, then I was not a murderer. If I believed in one thing, then believed in another thing. Could you change enough of your traits and beliefs for it to be no longer the same person? Or here's another interesting question. If you were to replace my brain with an exact physical replica of my brain, and it had all the same traits, am I the same person? Or is that less of me than the original physical brain with different traits and different beliefs? It's 35 minutes I'm walking and it's giving me a fucking headache.
I'm too tired for this question.
And I'm not high. I'm not doing drugs. This is why I'm so anxious.
Do you have any neurosurgeon friends?
It's not a neurosurgeon question. It's a philosophy question, I think.
Well, the direct replacement of the brain question, I feel like there's probably a specific answer that would debunk that.
I feel like we need to give Sean Carroll back on.
I don't think it's like replacing a hip. I think brain is specific.
Sure,
I think
but
if you take your brain out and...
What if you replace it with a brain that operates exactly in the same way?
But how can that...
Well, let's say it could.
I don't think that's...
I mean, if I had told you that 50 years ago, I mean, you wouldn't be alive, but if I had told you 50 years ago that we would have ChatGPT and iPhones, it would seem impossible to you. So...
Yeah, well, one of those things is fucking stupid. It doesn't actually provide any value.
It does provide value.
Yeah, to the fucking losers.
Mike's coming out as an Android guy.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
All right. No answers from anyone.
No. I got nothing. I got nothing for you.
CJ, I want you to think about it.
All right,
Yeah,
CJ, you answer. This is your time.
Yeah.
I need you to start really carrying the filter in.
Yeah.
Especially on a morning when I am not awake.
Yeah.
You are essentially my alarm.
Good. That's a lot of responsibility I have. I don't think you could, and again, there's probably someone in the chat who is like a brain expert that's like, these guys are fucking stupid. It doesn't work this way. I don't think you could just like swap out a brain and think like, oh, it's an exact replica and then have it still be. I think there's always
you could do it with a computer hard drive. We do it all the time.
Well, technically speaking, a hard drive is just like the data that you have stored on the
computer. The
CPU.
The CPU, yeah. And the hard drive, everything the same. Like we get a last thing, then we'll start. Excuse me. You get a new MacBook.
Yeah.
You put in your information. Maybe it's the exact same MacBook. Let's say it's not an upgraded MacBook. It's the same specs, everything. And you put in your information, and same apps, everything is the same. Is it the same MacBook?
No.
Why not?
That's like the MacBook's wearing the same jacket. Like when you log into your iCloud account, it's like you're wearing the same outfit that you were before, but it's a different body. It's a different body.
But if your iCloud account is just a computer. It's just your information on a computer. So if they replace that computer with all of your same iCloud information, you would say it's your iCloud, the same iCloud, right?
It's the same iCloud, yeah, but it's still a different computer.
I don't know.
I don't think that's a gotcha.
I think it's no, I didn't say it was a gotcha. Come back up. I didn't say it's a gotcha. I said it's just something to think about.
I'll think about it. Yeah.
Okay, all right. CJ, keep the filter in on this one. I want people's answers on this one. I'm sorry.
No.
Yes. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process at briggsauction.com. I hope in an upcoming Briggs Auction you can buy a replica brain. Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. And Surfside, Iced Tea and Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter. Rizzo, subscribe to rightstoRickySanchez.com/newsletter. In the show today, Joel Embiid signs a giant $190 million extension. Ben Simmons and his team or something demonetize our YouTube channel, or at least one video. And Nick Nurse hops on stage, once again proving that the only reason he's an NBA coach is so he can play music on stage with famous bands. We want to wish a very happy birthday to 8-year-old Alicia. This came from Goncalo in Portugal. He says, I'd appreciate it if you'd give a birthday shout out to Alice. A birthday shout out for my daughter Alice, who just turned 8 this week. Alice, yes. I know she'd get a kick out of it. She's so excited for the season. She's too young to know better. Better win this year, or damn it, it'll break a little girl's heart. Happy birthday, Alice. I can't believe an 8-year-old is listening to this podcast. You're probably far more mature than most of the other older people who do. Happy birthday, Alice. New episode of the Draft Council, which is our draft podcast in which Dan Olinger and Ahmed Jama give some rebuilding plans for the Spurs and the Pistons and the Jazz, and I forget, there's one other team in there, but you can search wherever you get your podcasts. A new episode of the Carl Landry Record Club, our music podcast, talks about albums from La Luz and the Starland Vocal Band, as well as a new single from Amos Lee. And Carl Landry Record Club Live 2, with me and Mootlu, as well as Jason Lipschutz and AU. It is New Metal and Linkin Park night as we celebrate Jason's new book. It starts with the great biography about the band Linkin Park. It's at Underground Arts, November 20th. You can get tickets at the link in the description of this podcast. Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka. Phil's clinch a playoff berth last night, and Citizens Bank Park is going to be full of noise, hopefully home runs, but definitely Surfside's all over the fucking place. Surfside has become the official drink of Philadelphia sports. I think the official drink of Philly in a lot of ways, because it tastes great. I mean, the logo is awesome. Let's be honest. That's part of it. The can's really cool looking. But every one of them. I finally had I had always talked about the green tea and vodka, but I had never tried it. I tried it, and it's awesome. The lemonade and vodka is awesome. The regular iced tea and vodka is awesome. All the different varieties are awesome. They're all 100 calories. They all only have 3 grams of sugar. And none of them have carbonation, because iced tea should not have bubbles. Get it wherever you get your canned alcoholic beverages, or go to statesidevodka.com. You can order a sampler pack there. You got to be 21, however. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy going through his own personal version of The Hangover. It's Bachelor Party Mike.
No, I didn't even get to go last night. My episode
really?
shot this week. So this is just after 5 days of an early call time and long hours on set. So I'm busted, dude. I'm just fucking busted
Wow.
as hell. I feel busted. I look busted, but we made some television. Hopefully it's good. And now we're going to make a podcast.
We
for
are.
2nd August.
Yep.
And at least Joel has some good news for us.
So the good news coming from the Sixers is that Joel Embiid signs a 3-year, $191 million extension, bringing his contract total value up to $301 million and goes through year 2029. However, that final season is a player option. Joel says on Instagram, Philadelphia is home. I want to be here for the rest of my career. I love this community and everything you've given me and my family. There's a lot more work to do. You guys deserve a championship, and I think we're just getting started. I mean, we've said this a billion
We're
times.
definitely not just getting started. I
Yes.
just want to be
Yes.
clear that it just can't be. It can't be just getting started.
In fact, one would imagine this is actually the last part of it, not the beginning. We're closer to the end than we are to the beginning.
That I can't say. I just have to. It can't be just getting started.
Okay. All right.
It cannot be.
Okay. Well, I think there was never a question, I don't think, that they would sign him to the extension. There's very little question that he would sign the extension. However, this is a good moment to think about the fact that he may very well spend his entire NBA career as a Philadelphia 76er, which is, I want to put aside for at least 1 second the fact that they have not gotten past the second round, that they've been disappointing in the playoffs, all of those things. They're all true, and they all mean something. However, for the purpose of this, the number of players who are as good as him, who play for one franchise their entire career in this day and age, is very, very, very small. And even players who we think about only associated with one team, whether it be Michael Jordan or Patrick Ewing or whatever, they played for more than one team,
Right.
you know? Yeah. So the idea that in today's NBA, when a player of his stature does not succeed, most times or a lot of times they end up leaving, or whether it's by free agency or forcing their way out, or there's rumblings of those things. And there have been essentially no rumblings aside from sort of Nick Side created, he's got his eyes on stuff, and, one stray comment from him here or there, which could as easily be trolling as real.
Yep.
He is one of the, at worst 5 best players in the NBA, at best 1 or 2 best players in the NBA. And he could likely play his entire career for the Philadelphia 76ers. And that is awesome. It is so rare. And the number of players even in Philadelphia who have done that, as great as him, like the list is very, very, not for the Sixers, just overall, it's very, 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 very small. It's like Mike Schmidt, So I just think his career deserves a run. And I hope it only takes one. Dirk only had one. Giannis might only have one. And most of those one runs, when the guys just have one run, are surrounded by failures all over the place. Giannis lost in the first round a couple times, injured. Dirk choked, yada, yada, yada. I just want that one. And I feel so lucky that he could very well be a Sixer for his entire career.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be... He's been in the league for 10 seasons. He missed his first 2 seasons with the injury.
Mm-hmm.
Injuries. And I think I've said this almost word for word before, but I really can so easily put myself back in the position of they draft him, he's out for the year, being at Summer League the following year, thinking, okay, maybe he plays a little Summer League, but he's definitely going to play this season, and then broke it again, out for the year. And just the weight of that was such a bummer because you feel so bad for the guy. And then obviously those stories came out over the course of his first 2 years of how, the out of shape stuff, and his brother died. And it was just such a hard time for him. And at that point, he wasn't giving interviews. We didn't know him very well. It wasn't like a guy that we felt attached to outside of, look how good he was. Look how good he can be. and we drafted him with the 3rd pick as the sort of biggest example of longest view in the room for Hinkie.
Yep.
And I could so easily remember that. And the idea that he's played 8 coming on 9 seasons of, not perfectly healthy, certainly, especially when the playoffs came along, but he's played 433 games in his career. He's been the scoring champion the last 3 years, although he didn't qualify last year. Been the MVP runner-up, All-Star consistently. If he retired today, he'd be a Hall of Famer. I mean, it is the idea that all happened, and also he continues to demonstrate that he wants to spend his career in Philadelphia. Just really, really lucky to have been a part of that, and obviously not taking it for granted. Also knowing it hasn't been great still. It's a lot leaving us wanted as a team, as an organization. The fact that he's gone through all the things. When my what was the quote in the band New York Times? Voice rising with indignation.
Oh yes.
All of the things I listed that were not able to be included in the article for length. He endured all of that. He was there for all of it. Every single one. And there's probably internal things that we never hear about, because like any workplace where you would be like, oh, this shit is crazy. And you tell your friends like how bad it is. Or like, he's probably talking to other organizations, and they're like, or other players. Imagine him talking to like, I don't know, Dame at an All-Star game, and Dame being like, what's going on over there? And he's probably just like, I don't know, man. It's bad. Like, it's that you have to imagine those conversations have happened.
Yep.
And I think it really is like a love for the city and the fans, and feeling as this is obviously speculation, but he had every reason to leave many times.
Sure.
But
well, I mean, the Colangelo thing would have been a very, very easy moment to leave.
Of course.
Yeah.
And to decide that he didn't want to leave and he wants to stay and last his whole career here, I'm sure a lot of the people in the organization are part of that. But I think a massive part of that, and Daryl, showing him, letting him into the process and showing him what his plans are and working through it with him and helping him get Paul George and all that stuff. Maxey being as good as he was pretty much right away saved this era of Sixers basketball. I think it's because he feels like committed to this project in a way that like,
well, it's his project on some level.
He is the head of the project.
He's the
but
lone...
he also could bail and go
right.
like be a star somewhere else. And like the idea, like he nicknamed himself after this thing that was like universally reviled outside of, our little community. And he nicknamed himself after that and trolled everybody and did the Dario's Never Coming Over and did the retweet Armageddon and all that stuff. And he feels just a passion to prove everyone wrong. And the way to do that is to win a championship in Philadelphia. And that is weirdly like the same goal of this podcast.
Right.
I'm just
right.
like, we got to
it's the
get
same reason
one.
we won't stop doing the podcast.
We got to get one. We
Right,
got to
right.
get one,
Yes.
man. We just fucking have to. And it's weird to have the same rationale as one of the best players in Philadelphia history. But I love him and I'm happy he's here. And to your point, spending a whole career in one city is just not, and hopefully he's healthy and hopefully great, but it just doesn't happen very often. So I would love if he said, I'm retiring in 2029 or whatever, and the next 5 years are what you got, and I'm not going to go to another team. Hell yeah, it's been a hell of a goddamn career, and let's ride it out good. But it's definitely not the start. I got too many wounds, too many open wounds for it to be the start.
What if he retires in 2029 because he doesn't want to deal with the traffic to the Market East Arena?
That might be it.
So one last thing. So here's the photo that was posted of afterwards. Now, one thing that's now left to right, obviously on the far left, that's LeBron James, then David Blitzer.
It was nice of LeBron to show up for that.
Yeah, that's it. It's Elton Brand, who is so fucking good looking. Is stunning how he outshines all of his contemporaries in this photo. But so left to right, it's Elton Brand,
But also looks so much smaller than Joel.
Yes. Well, and if you've ever stood next to Daryl Morey is a very, very big person as well. And he looks tiny next to Embiid, not to mention the Josh Harris. So Elton Brand, David Blitzer, Joel Embiid, Josh Harris, Nick Nurse, then Daryl Morey. Somebody pointed out to me on Twitter, and I just think it's very funny, that you can see that Josh Harris, for some reason, has 2 cell phones. There is one in his right pocket.
Hang on.
And there is one in the right side of his jacket.
Oh, that could be a wallet, couldn't it?
No way. No way a guy that rich is walking around with some giant wallet. Is he?
I don't know.
That's
in his front pocket? What is he?
Very square phone, if that's a phone. In the right pocket.
Okay.
I think phone is definitely invest.
Yeah.
But I think that's wallet in pocket.
Oh, in his front pocket?
I think he might have had it somewhere in his hand or something, and he just shoves it in there for a picture.
Okay.
And then that lives forever. I don't know how much thought went into this. I don't know.
You think Josh Harris carries a normal leather wallet? Do people do that anymore?
I do.
Oh, really?
But I have a couple less $1 billion than him, so I can't relate to what I would do. I would have some. I would have just a wallet person that I'd have a human embodiment of a wallet who just has it. I don't know. I don't know what I would do.
All right. Well, there it is. I would like some sort of investigation, or if there is a press conference, I would love somebody hashtag the Danny or Sixers Adam or somebody to ask Josh Harris if he has 2 phones. And if so, why does he have 2 phones? The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Briggs Auction, who we love. Hey, look, at some point, there's going to be some Briggs Auction that has an old phone in it or something. I'm sure if you're Josh Harris and you need a phone. You can download the app at Briggs Auction in the App Store or Google Play. You just go to briggsauction.com. They're cooking again. Briggs Auction is cooking again. Toward the end of the summer, they were once every 2 or 3 weeks. They're cooking every week, a new auction, thousands of items. A lot of them start at $1. Art, collectibles, cars, houses, clothing, furniture. It's time for CJ's Briggs Auction item of the week. I like this week's auction, by the way, CJ.
Yeah, so there's a lot of art pieces in this auction, a lot of jewelry, and as I've probably mentioned before, I just recently moved, so I'm trying to fill up all my walls. And I saw this morning, and I really like it. It is the perspective of this is, I'm assuming you're sitting right in Logan Square, looking, I guess, east technically.
I've never seen the skyline from that perspective, actually.
Yeah, we got City Hall, we have the Savings Building Tower over here. It's nice. From
Tony Fachet? Do we think it's Fachet or Fachet?
Probably. I'm not going to guess. I'm just going to leave it open to interpretation, but it was dated from 1969.
Oh, wow.
For the audio listeners, it's a painting of Center City, Philadelphia.
Oh, that's awesome. I need to do more of that. I've stopped doing that sometimes. When we put something on the screen, I would always describe it, and I haven't been as good about that anymore if you're not watching on YouTube or Spotify or whatever. So Briggs Auction, as I mentioned, just an awesome place to shop for stuff you didn't know that you wanted. I guess that's the best way to describe it. If you win an auction, which is thrilling, winning both in-person and online auctions is fun. You could pick it up on Saturdays. There's open pickup, or during the week by appointment. They can even work with you on a shipper. They don't ship in-house, but they work with several. And if you have a lot of stuff, maybe an estate full of stuff that you need to get rid of, I wouldn't trust anyone but Briggs Auction with it. Send an email to info@briggsauction.com. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process, and of course the official auction of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. We did get we've been getting a lot of these, and I wish I had this idea prior to now, because I sort of feel like a full-on relationship advice episode would have been good in the middle of one of our Augusts, but we're we're almost through August number 2. But we got another relationship advice success story, which I love hearing about. So we got this call to 833 Lickface.
Like, Mike, this is Frank from media calling again. I just realized maybe I should be one of these guys that give a relationship advice update. A few years ago, I called you guys. My marriage seemed like it was ending, and I called you guys saying I was at a job, and I felt a spark for this person I was doing work for, and it kind of opened my eyes that I already knew my marriage was over, and I was asking you guys, like, how do I negotiate this? Like, is there any world where I could ask this woman out? You guys gave good advice. Mike, in particular, I remember being like, don't make it weird, don't make it awkward, definitely don't ask this person out while you're doing work in case it's a no, and then it's awkward. I took that advice. I did ask her out once I eventually finished the job months later, and I got a no. But I met someone else, as you do, and then she lived in media. I reached out to you, Spike, asking where a good first date place to be, like in media would be. You mentioned a Z. You mentioned Brick and Brew. I picked Brick and Brew. We went to have our first date at Brick and Brew. It was closed for a holiday party. She quickly, changed the plans. So let's go down to Iron Hill. We went to Iron Hill at our first date, and lo and behold, I am now engaged to her, and we are going to get married next year. Side note, a Z is her favorite restaurant. So, Spike, I should have gone with your other suggestion, a Z. That would have been clutch to do that as the first date instead of her pick Brick and Brew, and it was close. But anyway, good advice from both you guys on 2 different occasions. I appreciate it. And, yeah, all right, keep doing your thing. Thanks. Bye.
Mike, the evidence is mounting that we give good relationship advice.
I just simply can't believe it. I refuse to.
You don't think the evidence is mounting?
No. He asked about a different person.
Yeah, but we gave advice. No, I gave advice for the new one.
Where? Okay. If you could give good restaurant recommendation advice.
Well, it's part of. Look, let me think of it this way. He wanted to ask that girl out who he was working for. You said, not right now, don't make it weird. Maybe he would have done it, and maybe she would have said no, and it would have been crushing for him at that moment because he was working for her, and he never asked out this girl. Butterfly effect.
Sure.
I'm
but
just
butterfly
saying,
effect also includes listening to this podcast at all.
Yes. I'm just saying. We're improving lives. Look, even if we don't win a championship, we're improving lives left and right.
Okay.
All right. Good basketball questions, 2 of them from this call to 833 Lickface.
This is Josh, the miserable Pistons fan from Binghamton, New York. Just wanted to check something. Basically, I know you guys have said a number of times that Maury is wrong to say that, we have to, the Sixers, which now apparently say we, even though I'm a Pistons fan, whatever. Anyway, the Sixers, it doesn't matter being a good team. And I mostly agree with you in the playoffs. But that being said, like the last 2 seasons, someone ends up in the conference finals beating 2 straight teams that, maybe not aren't bad teams, but like Milwaukee last year at Indianapolis are injury riddled. So, I'm not saying hope for that, but there's like a 50% chance that the Sixers get in the conference finals because they just get 2 crappy teams. And that was the other part of my question. The best way to get 2 injury-riddled or, less good teams is by having a better record. So then doesn't the regular season matter? Is the question.
Okay, and then we got an email from John. He says, "Hi, Spike, Mike, Rebel, and Scotchy. Am I a regular season bitch or am I onto something? Be 11 years." What's that?
Who's Scotchy?
My other dog.
Oh, I thought it was a different name.
No. Well, it's Butterscotch, but that was a dumb name, so we changed it to Scotchy.
There's another dog name that I thought the other. Okay, I'm mixing up the dogs that you've fostered.
Yeah, well, it was like four dogs we fostered. Am I a regular season bitch or am I on to something? Being 11 years into this, I don't care about the regular season record, but the regular season is a halfway decent measure of potential playoff success. I was born in 1985, so I did an analysis going that far back. Championship winning teams have an average regular season win rate of 73%. I've convinced myself that the Sixers need to at least win 55 games to have a shot at a championship. If we do that, then we have a 10 to 20% chance of winning it all that year. All the while Kornblau, we're resting Embiid, avoiding back-to-backs, not chasing 30 and 10 games. If we stumble into the playoffs as a 6 seed or lower with Embiid coming back from whatever injury, then we're fucked. Basketball question, are you on the same page as me? We can't stumble into the playoffs and expect to lead it anywhere meaningful. A non-basketball question, can I send CJ a metal water bottle if you share some kind of Ricky mailing address? I'm nervous about the microplastics. So first question, does beating a team that has an injury to their best player count as beating a good team? Or is it beat a good team or end up in the conference finals?
Well, there are some teams that you could injure their best player and they'd still be a good team.
Okay.
I would say that most teams that are in the Eastern Conference playoffs this coming year,
Yep.
are better than any team the Sixers have beaten in the playoffs, even if you remove their best player.
Sure. That's a good point. I would say the Bucks without Giannis would still be better than any team that we had ever beaten in the playoffs.
That is correct.
That is actually a frightening and really disappointing, disappointing thing. Okay. All right. So we haven't sort of debated it, and I'm on a different side of the regular season thing than you are. Not so much that, and I think just to reverse engineer this, I think what John is doing, and I think Maury actually answered a question like this once about cohesiveness with the team, sort of that people said, I asked him about consistency from year to year, being that teams that win championships are consistent year to year. And essentially his response was, it's the other way around. A team that wins a championship ends up being consistent, not a team that's consistent ends up winning a championship. So I think his teams that win a championship have a record of win 73% of their games is sort of the backwards way of looking at it, in that a good team wins more games, not you have to win regular season games to win a championship. That said, I do think that the likelihood of being a 5 or 6 or 7 seed and winning a championship is pretty low. And I do think they if they are good enough to win a championship, that they will be a top, at the very least, a top 4 seed, probably a top 3 seed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's preferable. Obviously, you want to be able to rest Joel enough and win enough games without him there, which you hopefully should be able to do with Maxey taking another step forward, Paul George being here as a guy that can ramp up his ability, whether he's playing on or off ball, and the most competent backup center in Andre Drummond that is capable of playing major minutes. Even when B-Ball Paul was competent, he wasn't like ever you feel good about having him 30-plus minutes a night guy. But I think there's also something to be said of, like, if somebody gets hurt and then they just get hot towards the end of the season after a struggling beginning, then that is also fine. I think there's too many circumstances to think about just like, okay, block everything else out. The only thing that matters is health, obviously, and what place they finish in. I think when you look, there just hasn't been enough championship winners in like the modern era for me, like, divine any useful information out of like regular season record means this for playoffs. I mean, even getting to the championship, Miami got there weren't they an 8 seed? They were an 8 seed when they got to the championship.
Yes, they were.
So
they're an exception, I would say.
Yeah, no, of course, but I don't know. To me, it's like there's just of the modern era of basketball, which let's say is the 3-point revolution. So maybe like 10 years, 12 years, even just say let's say LeBron's career or something. Although I think that's splitting eras. There's just not that many. That's not enough useful information for that. So I care more about what the Sixers have been through. And to me, I would not push Joel in any way to play more in the regular season because you need to get a top 4 seed. There's some thought that you need to get a top 4 seed to win a championship. I think you continue to play good basketball, stick to the plan, make sure Joel is as healthy as possible in the playoffs. And if that means you're a 5 seed or a 6 seed, but healthy and clicking at the right time, I would take that hands down over like more taxed Joel knees or feet or whatever. I mean, the Aces in the W have won 2 straight titles, and they're currently the 4 seed in the playoffs that start tomorrow. And like, I still think they have as good of a shot. Even they'll probably face the Liberty in the second round, which will be a great series, but they have as good a shot as any. I think it's just a matter of like gelling at the right time. The Aces had injuries, Chelsea Gray, like that kind of thing of earlier in the season, and now it's just the difference between one home game, while good for the Sixers, I would take it, but I'm also the Sixers have lost plenty of important games at home that I'm not risking or pushing Joel further than he can, than like the sound medical advice of a big broad, here's our plan this season would be telling us.
Yeah, I think it's sort of, I mostly agree with you. I actually, just to go back to the beginning part of it, I just think it's sort of it's less about trying to win games in the regular season and more about if they're really that good, they will win games in the regular season.
Right.
Do you know, they're, even if they only have, the point you made about any team in the Eastern Conference missing their best player is still a better team than we've beaten.
Yeah.
The Sixers missing any one of their 3 best players should still be a good team.
Yeah.
If you took Embiid away from this team, I think they're still probably a 44 win team or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they were somewhere around there. So, and without Paul George, I think they could be a 50 win team, to be quite honest with you. So I think if they're as good as we hope they are, they should end up as a top 4 seed, even if they were to implement all of these things. So essentially, I agree with you that they should not strain themselves to have a top 4 seed. It's more that I think if they are as good as we hope they are, it's likely that they will.
That's right.
You know. So the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. You know, Mike asked a while ago, who's Scotchy? Scotchy's our other dog. We have 2 dogs now. They both sleep on Big Barker Therapeutic.
How close are their beds?
So they're literally right next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Does one ever get onto the wrong one?
So it's actually very funny in that when we first come to bed, Scotchy will get on Rebels and Rebel will just stare at her. And we have to tell her to get up and get on her own. But then sometimes in the middle of the night, she will just creep onto his bed with him and they'll sleep on the same fucking Big Barker.
That's very sweet.
It's the cutest thing in the world. They're like best friends now. I never thought it would happen. It actually warms my heart. They don't even want to go on walks with each other. And the Big Barker keeps your dogs healthier. Rebel is now 10 years old. And, you know, there are genetic things that come into play on this, but he has been sleeping on a Big Barker for a large part of his life with us. And at 10 years old, he has 0 signs of arthritis, actually. He is still incredibly active, you know, jumps up on everything, nothing at all. And that's one of the benefits, the key benefit of the Big Barker, aside from the fact that it looks great, aside from the fact that it lasts forever, really well made, is that it's engineered by experts to keep your dog healthier. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky. You go there, you get the Big Barker dog bed. You can learn everything, not just what I tell you. You can see it in the pictures that it's different from a regular dog bed, in that just like your mattress, when a dog lays on a Big Barker, it doesn't sink right to the ground. It supports them. That's what a mattress is supposed to do. So you go to bigbarker.com/Ricky, you find out about it, and if you buy it there, you get 2 processed pup patches. You get this black and white one. You get a red, white, and blue one that you can iron onto the bed. You get stickers. And if you send us a photo of your dog on the Big Barker dog bed with the patch right on there, put them in the Process Pup Gallery, become an official Process Pup. Dogs, as they age, just like us, develop arthritis, get creaky joints, especially bigger dogs. And the Big Barker, as proven by a study with Penn Vet, you know, helps stave that off and keep your dog healthier, happier, more pain-free. It's great. Comes in all different colors, all different sizes. I said big dogs, and it's called Big Barker because it started off for big dogs, but now they have them small, the Barker Jr., all the way up to very, very big, all different shapes, all different sizes, with the headrest, without the headrest, different colors, replacement covers. Is awesome. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky. The 10-year warranty, the foam does not flatten, or they replace it for free. A 1-year at-home trial. If you don't like it, the dog won't sleep on it. Or if you have 2 dogs and they insist on sleeping on the same one, you can return it. They'll give you a full refund. They'll even pay for the shipping. It's handmade in the USA. Big Barker Dog Beds. So we have some Ben Simmons news, we think.
Here we go. I'm surprised you didn't lead with this.
Well, it's big. Well, there's an update to the story. So on the last pod we did, we showed this video, which we're showing again, from Chris Brickley, which is Ben Simmons, which is on his Instagram account. And it is simply footage of Ben Simmons in a gym shooting jumpers, as we see every year. And we chuckled about it, so on and so forth. So I saw when we get a copyright strike on our YouTube videos, we get an email. It's usually because we've used a clip of a song. Occasionally, it is like when we do relationship advice and use Eliza Hardy Jones's song, even though she told us we could use it, there is there's a thing that YouTube does is that identifies it, gives it a copyright strike. And for most of them, what it does is it either doesn't let you monetize the video, which we don't do anyway, or if you monetize the video, you have to split the revenue with this person. So we get them at a decent rate. What's the matter, CJ?
It's not a split. 100% goes to
Oh,
the
right.
person
Sure.
claiming
Right.
the revenue.
Yes. So I think we've gotten it when we've played NBA highlights every once in a while that are copyrighted. So we put this in here and we talk about it. And I get one of the emails. I actually don't pay attention to it. I figured it was because we played that Amos Lee clip, which had a song in it. I figured it was a song that we couldn't play. And I get a text message from CJ. The YouTube video was demonetized because of the Ben Simmons workout video. And I'm like, no way. And I go back and check, and they say this has been demonetized because of content that happens between the 45:07 mark and 45:46, something like that, which is exactly the time that we played the fucking Ben Simmons video. It is unbelievable that this content would even be, registered with YouTube as copyrighted content, as it is just Instagram footage of someone working out in a gym. So I tweeted about it and I said, our YouTube video has been demonetized because of this Ben Simmons thing. As of this morning, that copyright strike has been removed.
Wow.
So the question, Mike, is
Democracy works.
Did we bully Ben Simmons and his team into removing the copyright strike?
Do you think that someone listened and heard us being too mean about it?
I have no idea. I think it's less likely that happened and more likely that the video, for some strange reason, was registered with maybe the trainer works for a bigger company and they do it with all of their videos. I have no idea. The mean part of it is the funnier way to think of it. I can't imagine what it could be.
Also worth mentioning, some people may be thinking, well, it's not monetized, so why do you care? There's good reason to believe that YouTube kind of shadow bans videos that are demonetized and doesn't push them out as much after. So
yeah, at least suppressed. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely suppresses. So that's the main focus here. Like, yeah, we're not losing any money. We don't care about that. But
no. Yeah, we have ads in our YouTube videos, but they are the ads that we say. We don't split that money with YouTube. A lot of people use YouTube monetization, which is when you see the 10-second ad before the video, or it stops in the middle of the video to play an ad. We don't do any of that stuff, so it doesn't, but it could hurt our views. So
there is this week, outside of set, I'm going to say this without using any specifics, so I can't get in trouble for it.
Okay.
One of the, I'm not even going to say the title. One of the people associated, one of the important people associated with the show, was I walk out of set and see them gesticulating on the phone and like gesticulating wildly, like yelling at someone over the phone to try to like prevent this other thing from happening. It's hard to.
Okay.
trying to avoid it. But
a lot of generalities.
That in my mind is CJ for this video. Is we walk out of the podcast studio, which is in this version in person, and CJ is outside just screaming at either YouTube or Ben Simmons' people to tell them that this wrong must be righted. And I like it. I like that image in my head. CJ just fucking bodying people over the phone, throwing his weight around.
That is accurate because it's so frustrating that YouTube does this. You will play a clip for 30 seconds and it's an hour plus long podcast and the entire video gets wiped for a small little clip. Just like force that video to be cut out. Don't.
Right.
This is like way above me. Like people have been complaining about this for years and YouTube doesn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So.
And we could not play other people's content and avoid it completely, but you would guess that content like this is fair use.
Absolutely fair use. It's not like we're just like broadcasting someone else's content and just leaving it up there. Like you guys are commentating over it. It's transformative. Which,
by the way, a lot of YouTube and TikTok is people just taking other people's content and actually monetizing it and generate. We are not doing that at all. So I would think this is definitely, let's get Kornblau on the fair use.
Wow. We are driving people to his page.
Right.
We are getting people excited for Ben Simmons having a jump shot. Thanks to whatever trainer this guy is. Oh, yeah, it's the trainer that I had met. So I do know it. Yeah.
So speaking of Ben Simmons, we got this from one of our Australian. Oh, wrong one. Hold on. From one of our Australian listeners to 833 Lickface.
Hey guys, I was just listening to your latest pod, and just wanted to confirm what Mike was saying about how you have Australians listening to your pod, and how they came along because of Ben Simmons and have stayed. That's exactly what has happened to me. So I came along, I heard about the Ricky through following the 76ers. I started following the 76ers because of Ben Simmons. And I've got to be honest, I really want to stop following the 76ers. Pretty much every season at the end of the year, I'm like, I want to stop following this team. I want to stop following these losers. And yet, every time I go to change teams, like all my friends just follow LeBron around, every time I want to change and I go to action that, I go, but I'm never going to be able to stop listening to the Ricky. So what do I do with my life? So you guys are solely responsible for Australians still following the 76ers, even though we don't want to. Please migrate your pod to follow a different team so that we can stay with the Ricky, but follow a different team that actually wins. That'd be awesome. Thank you. It's Nick, by the way. Bye.
By the way, he does not sound like he's kidding at all. I would like to say that there were a good number. Australia, even pre-Ben Simmons, was our second biggest listening country. I think Brett Brown probably had something to do with it. And the Sixers are big internationally, like the Lakers and the Bulls. I think it is Iverson related.
Sure.
But Mike, what do you think of Nick's idea about helping our Australian listeners by just making the podcast about a different team?
Yeah. Look, that man is from Philadelphia. I know he might be born in Australia with an Australian accent, but that's a Philadelphia man. I can spot him.
Yep.
We've in the past we've had other teams, the Rockets, the Thunder. I feel like we might need to pick what our backup Sixers team would be this year. And they can't be too good. They have to be at the like Sixers 2017 place for us to fully get there. So maybe that's a subject of if we become the only, I don't know, probably not Spurs, too big. What's the sweet spot of what team we would be a fan of?
If we were to move to a different team,
might be the Magic.
The Magic would be your choice.
Okay.
But I fear that the Magic is Are we factoring in the possibility they win a championship? Because I feel like the Magic are destined to be good but not great.
Sure.
Spurs is a good one, though it feels a little bandwagony.
Yeah, maybe the Grizzlies. It's kind of weird because they had such a bad year because everything fell apart last year, but
Thunder too good.
Thunder too good, yeah.
Well, I'm forgetting teams now. Let me look at the NBA.
I mean, you're not a Zion guy, so you can't say the Pelicans.
Nah,
I would be pro Pelicans.
and they're never going to win a championship, that team. So,
no.
Well, the Pacers.
Yeah, I mean, I love Pacers could be it. Although they did make the conference finals last year.
They did. They were sort of, yes.
All right, so these are the contenders. Pacers,
the Rockets,
Magic.
The Rockets.
Well, we already did the Rockets, but I guess it's still.
Yeah.
I guess it probably still is the Rockets. I'm assuming that they're already taking another big step forward, but yeah. So I'd say Pacers. Pick the backup team of this podcast for this coming season: Pacers, Magic, Grizzlies, Rockets.
Well, so I don't think we can pick an Eastern Conference team if they're a backup team.
Okay.
Because we could play them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And obviously we pick
but we're
the Sixers.
leaving the Sixers behind in this situation.
Yeah. Well, right. But still, it feels worse, even if we're leaving the Sixers behind, but we still have those scars. It's like staying friends with your ex on Facebook.
All right. Well, then we got to get a third team. The Wolves had too much success last year.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be the Pelicans or the Kings, but I do feel a kinship with the Kings.
Jazz?
No, they're tanking.
Oh, right.
Or like side tanking.
So Rockets, Pelicans is a weird one.
Rockets, Grizzlies, and you can pick between the Kings and the Pelicans. Those are the three choices.
I would take the Kings over the Pelicans.
Yeah, I knew you would. Okay, so Grizzlies, Rockets, Kings. Those are the choices.
Yeah. Okay. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. Kornblau is a fucking dog. Can I just be honest with you? If you need a personal injury lawyer, you need a fucking dog. Kornblau is a fucking dog, born of fucking dogs. The Kornblau and Kornblau, started by his parents, two fucking dogs as personal injury lawyers. Now, when they deal with you, they're going to be understanding, emotional.
Like a dog.
Patient, right. But then when the enemy is there, you're fucking right on this one. When the enemy is right there, that's when they turn into the other kind of dog, tearing them to shreds. They've been around for 4 decades. And the biggest difference, they're the premier boutique personal injury law firm in the Delaware Valley. The biggest difference between Kornblau and Kornblau and the other ones that you hear and see advertised is the other ones that you hear and see advertised, most of them you're not even going to deal with those people that you hear and see in the advertisements. They are just getting you to call them so they can refer you to a law firm in this area. A lot of them even aren't here. Kornblau and Kornblau here. Kornblau, 76er season ticket holder, for real. They have offices all over the Delaware Valley, but they will even come to you. Personal injury lawsuits take a long time. They're very complicated. They're incredibly frustrating. You need a true partner in this, somebody who's good at it, a real fucking dog, and somebody who is going to do the best job for you while also making sure you feel confident and you feel communicated with. Kornblau and Kornblau is the way you got to go. Whether it's medical malpractice, which they're excellent at, slip and fall, injured at work, car accident, whatever it is. If you think you might have a case, give them a call or shoot them an email. You're going to hear from a Kornblau. That's how it works. It doesn't cost you anything to reach out. 215-576-7200 and ask for Adam, or email Kornblau at kornblauandkornblau.com. Kornblau spelled Kornblau. And fair to mention, many of our listeners, this is what a great guy he is. Many of our listeners have reached out to him with non-personal injury questions. Oh, yeah. He always, think of the number of bad leases that Kornblau has helped our listeners get out of, or issues with landlords or questions, even helped Eric from Big Barker with a case. Just the best. So Kornblau and Kornblau is the official law firm of the process. How about this? The Cooler comment of the pod. I actually have 2 of them. Cooler is a new podcast app that made a big change that I kept requesting, and they finally did it. So love it. Cooler.fm is where you could become a beta tester. Just use code LickFace. This came from Tom. This is about last episode. This is one of those podcasts you're happy that it's the 9th week of August. Just excellent off-season buffoonery. I'm with Mike on team #TestTheSemen. I don't even remember what. Was that about the condom and the sex bubble?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Greg about your new heart rate.
Just test it.
Yeah, test the semen. Greg, because there is a universal database of whose semen is whose.
Obviously.
Yeah. So this came from Greg. Now, Mike mentioned he's wearing a Fitbit now so he can monitor his heart rate during Sixers games. And his concern was that it would get over 100. And I was concerned that his heart rate would get that high watching a game. So Greg says, as someone who routinely checks their heart rate with the Apple Watch with a resting heart rate around 55, I was shocked at how much my heart rate does not react to sports. I figured it would be all over the place during a tight contest, but in all honesty, I think playoff baseball is the one thing that makes my heart race. When I got married, I looked at my heart rate afterwards and it was around 120. So we're asking if the Sixers make Mike almost as nervous as standing at the altar.
I think probably more.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's a lot, man. That's a lot.
Yeah, I don't think I was that nervous.
Getting married?
No.
Yeah, well, I wonder how old Greg was. I wasn't that nervous either. But I didn't get married till I was 37 or 38 or something.
Yeah, I'm not getting married. I'm not saying at the altar going like, this better fucking work! I'm not saying these motherfuckers at any point.
Yeah,
During the wedding.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, I think if whoever married you fucked it up, maybe you would.
That would be hard to imagine.
Yeah.
In that moment. Unless a wedding planner was bad. There was, yeah. But the Sixers are definitely, I'm not waiting to see, like, I'm not watching a ball go through the air and go like, this better fucking go in.
Right. You have more control, by the way, over the result of your marriage.
Yeah.
Than you do over the Sixers.
Quite a bit, unfortunately.
Mostly, I'm just playing this voicemail because I can't believe we got. It's simply the sound of the person's voice.
Okay.
Is actually stunning to me. 833 Lickface.
Hey, chaps. It's Angela, a self-hating English person. Open brackets, Irish, close brackets. Love you guys, but just gonna put this out there that I think actually, relocating, declaring your independence, if you will, because you don't want to pay your taxes, is actually very 1776. In fact, I would say that's really in the DNA of the Sixers to want to do that. With love from the UK. See you guys.
That's so fair.
Yeah.
All right. She got my ass.
She did. And a female in the UK just seems like a very unlikely voicemail for us to get, to be honest with you. Our listenership, while I am incredibly thankful of our female listeners, when you look at the YouTube stats, it's a very small percentage, somewhere in the neighborhood of 3%. And in the UK, it just seems like a stunner. And she made an excellent point that the Sixers are doing perhaps the most American and 1776 thing, which is declaring their independence and not paying taxes.
Hard to argue with that.
So Nick Nurse loves playing music on stage, loves doing it. I am convinced that one of the reasons he's an NBA coach is that it gives him better access to famous musicians. The Mountjoy played in Philly last night or 2 nights ago, and this is like Ricky adjacent musician week in Philadelphia, as Warren Druggs played earlier in the week. Amos is not playing to the end of October. But here is, thanks to Pat Gallen, our friend Pat Gallen, one of my original podcast partners on CBS3, here is video of Nick Nurse on stage with Mountjoy playing Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. I'm sure we will get a copyright strike for this, unless CJ's going to play it without the music behind it. Nah, he doesn't give a fuck. Here we go. Now, I believe Nick Nurse, will get a close-up of him, is playing keyboard, which is what he does. You also hear Pat singing a little bit, which is charming. Come on, Pat. Where's this close-up? I know there's a close-up because I remember. Oh, there it is. There he is. There's Nick Nurse playing keyboards on stage at the Man. Is that where this was? I hate to say this, but just go coach basketball. Enough of this. Enough of the music. I'm going to need you to concentrate on basketball.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't want to bring back the dunking versus guitar like that. I'm just watching that, him just like calmly like hit some keys. I'm like, dunking is just so much cooler than.
Well, he's not
everything
playing a
that-
guitar solo. He's
So
playing.
it's guitar more than piano. There's such a steep
Yes.
difference between that.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Okay,
Yes, of course.
I don't. It's the same.
It's not the same.
It so pales in comparison to dunking. It's
No, it
it's
doesn't.
remarkable.
I don't want to do this because
It's really remarkable.
as time goes on, I think you're wronger and wronger on this
I
one.
think that I'm worried about people that don't think that. I'm worried that people that think that like doing a guitar solo or any music thing in that moment is cooler
Than
a dunk.
dunking?
I'm worried about them.
You know
I'm
what?
worried
The,
about
the
them.
truth is, I don't think you're a
Seek
music
help.
hater, but you are a music dismisser on some level.
Yes.
You know, so
Sure.
and you did show some contempt toward theater kids on the last pod. I think you might hate
a healthy, friendly contempt. Yeah.
it. You work within the arts on some level,
Yeah, and that's why I can disrespect it.
but you're
As someone who-
disrespecting every other art, but comedy writing.
No, I'm disrespecting myself as well. I'm saying I don't. It's whatever. And dunking is just so individually so much cooler
But a tall
and
person
such a better
can dunk.
feeling than all of that.
Simply, you could dunk if you're tall or if you're born athletic. You can't. Nobody in the world can just be awesome at guitar.
CJ.
Another point that I don't know if we brought up before was that
I can't believe we're back on this.
if you're dunking, that moment of that sensation is pretty quick. The process of the dunk is a few seconds. You land from the dunk. Maybe there's people cheering for you. Whatever. A nice guitar solo or a nice
God.
piano solo.
I gotta get
You
it.
can-
I gotta get it.
It's
New podcast.
sustained. You can have like
This
minutes of euphoria.
Yeah, people could be,
pumping into your brain.
generally bopping their head or even walking away sometimes because you're
Walking
going on for too
away.
long.
If
Yeah,
it's bad, yeah.
Okay, last thing on this is something that made people mad on the guitar side, is that you assume that a guitar solo is happening outside of a song, whereas almost all guitar solos happen within songs.
Yeah, that's fine.
But people aren't walking away when the guitar solo happens in a song.
If it takes too long, you're like, okay, can we get back to the like, we're just like diverting for like a jam band situation where you're like going for. I mean, you're also assuming that the dunk is a 6'8" stiff just standing up and just plopping it into the
I'm just saying
basket, but that
you.
the guitar solo is
Let's put it this
is
way.
Jimi Hendrix.
Let's put it this way. If it was you,
Yeah,
I would be more impressed with you if you ripped a guitar solo as opposed to you dunking.
I mean, I don't play guitar, so would I, but I would rather do the other thing. That is inarguably cooler. It's just not close, dude.
Last one. We gotta move off this topic. Email from Chris in Bethesda. Writes Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. Dear Spike and Mike, after listening to the conversation in the last pod, that was 2 pods ago, about the New York Times article failing to mention the name of the pod, it occurred to me that I think it's time for a new approach. If someone is determined to be guilty of this heinous crime in the future, I suggest not saying their name either, like ever again. You, of course, describe who it is that you're banning in any other way that you want, even rhyme for confirmation if you need to. You just can't say their name no matter what. A related question for Mike, did you say the name during the interview and they failed to include it? If not, shouldn't all future interviews be conducted with the agreement that the name will be said by the interviewer when the final cut of media is published? So
it was like a half-hour call.
Yes.
And they didn't use all the words that I said.
yeah.
And
the reason they called you is because they knew about the podcast.
yeah, it wasn't like it wasn't 1-800 Sixers fan random. Like it was,
Right.
They called me because of the podcast. So I talked about the podcast
Yes.
and probably said the Ricky several times.
Well, they linked to the rights to Ricky Sanchez page.
Although I forgot to tell you this. Wait, I have it here. Okay, so when I was in Philly for the wedding, or Harrisburg for the wedding, and then flew out of Philly, my dad handed me an envelope, courtesy of my mom's former boss, now retired. Shout out Arnie, of the article.
Oh, in the Times.
In the Times, where I don't know if you know this, you can't link
Oh, so there's
in a hard
nothing
copy
at all.
paper. So there's nothing at all.
Ah, yes.
So there's nothing at all. Let me
So
see.
they're even more guilty. Now, not everything the New York Times publishes online makes it into the paper, so it's notable that it was in the paper.
Michael Levin, 34 television writer who co-hosts a long-running podcast about the 76ers. If I'm reading the Times, hard copy, me, maybe at my kitchen nook, having a cup of coffee in the morning.
Have no idea what they're talking about.
I have no idea what podcast you said they're talking about.
And, you know, one thing I wanted to note, and I don't want to say her name because she tried to block out her name, even though it was in the email.
This is the lady?
Yeah. So there's a lady. I'm not going to say her name, but hold on. I need to read
you're not going to say her name. And
well, she didn't want her name used.
Okay.
She didn't want her name used.
Anonymous.
Yeah. So hold on. Let me make sure I get the email correctly. There it is. So it's honestly one of the most charming emails I've ever received in my entire life. She writes, "You would think at age 73, I would have better things to do than this. I marked out my name. I wanted this totally confidential, but then I realized it would show up when I emailed you. Oh, well." So she wrote an email to the writer of the article, Andrew K. Mm-hmm. "Please consider making a correction that you didn't mention Mike Levin's podcast is the rights to Ricky Sanchez. I think it was an omission to be corrected. It's an important 76ers podcast in Philadelphia by Levin and Spike Eskin, and people who don't know it should be directed there. Thanks." The response from Andrew: "Thanks. Levin was great to talk to for the piece. We mentioned his podcast and also linked directly to it in our online version, though I believe the full name of the podcast might have been cut for space in the final edit. Thanks for reading and reaching out." She responds, "Yes, I see that online, but it would have been good to say the name. But thanks for the prompt response." Fair to mention that the number of characters in long-running 76ers podcast is more characters than rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. Fucking liar. You motherfucker. Word count.
What a nice lady.
Yeah. Oh, she's the best. Are you kidding? So, all right. Well, Mike, I hope you have enough energy to celebrate the rest of this bachelor party weekend.
Oh, boy.
You gonna take a nap or something?
No. We're going to a club tonight.
Oh, boy. That sounds fun.
Gonna be struggling.
Yeah. What kind of club?
A club where they named the DJ.
Oh, no.
And they're like, this person or group, I don't know who it is. And they're going to be there. I'm like, well, I don't know who that could possibly be or if I'm supposed to be excited about it. But I'm going to ride it out.
All right. All right. We will talk to you next time. We are 10 days away from camp. August is almost over.
Unreal.
The end of August. As I wear an August Burns Red t-shirt. August. Wow. All right. We'll talk to you next time. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah. You know.